Welcome to the Matt and Dale podcast, episode 14.
It's been so long, Matt.
It has. I think our last episode was back in, might have been even October or November last year. So it's been a
Was it
few
that long
months.
ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, lot of water under the bridge, so to speak, right?
that's right. Yeah. How was your holiday?
Both locally and abroad. How was the holiday? It was awesome, but
Yeah.
I was telling you off there probably all the detail, but for the viewers, I
Mm.
did a camping van trip with my wife down the northern New South Wales coast into Victoria and back again, and that took 3.5 weeks. We also did a jaunt up to Agnes Water, which is a beautiful place north of Bundaberg. So yeah, had a couple of months off work
Yeah.
effectively. I think I did a little bit in between, but to a bit of a refresh and a reset. Um, I moved house as well, so kind of there was a fair bit going on really in terms of change. So yeah, we're in a temporary rental at the moment because we're hopefully about to build on a block of land we bought. And yeah, plenty is water under the bridge. I would say there's been some definite changes, and like we were talking about, segueing into the topic, Matt. Um, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and wars and news, and just there's just a bombardment of noise, isn't there? That we can tune in or out of, and I think the topic today was what we can control and what can't we control and how we navigate maybe these times, which I thought might be quite prevalent to have a bit of a chat about. Not knowing what kind of profound kind of insights we can provide the viewers, but um, maybe just little glimpses of maybe how we go about dealing with it and what we see in other people dealing with it. And I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, firstly, Dale, welcome back.
Thank
I've
you.
really missed doing these podcasts, that's for sure.
Same.
So it's a breath of fresh air to have you back at Thrive.
Thanks,
Um,
mate. Good to be back.
yeah, yeah, that's really nice and super excited for today as well and to get
Oh,
back into the podcast.
yeah, and one thing just to say,
Mm.
obviously, in terms of Thrive updates, so we've set up Thrive set up a practice facility on Russell Island. Well, currently, both myself and Jamie, the psychologist, will be working with me, who will probably get on the show, actually, would be great, wouldn't it? So we've set up a practice facility there, working with some other clinicians initially, so kind of like a little allied health team, but us under the Thrive banner, providing psychology counseling sessions to
So
local
exciting.
residents. It's very exciting. Yeah, yeah, and putting our stamp a little bit on the islands from a Thrive perspective, a little bit more of a capacity, which is good, but we'll still be doing telehealth and stuff like that. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, that's exciting. That's on my first day in Russell's tomorrow, so looking forward to that.
Back to in-person clients.
Yes, yes. Well, I've been doing some work of that nature up here. It's just that we haven't had the practice facility per se, which is kind of locked in per se. So locked in. But yeah, I did obviously just with our connections up here, we've been able to utilize different spaces and stuff like that when need be. So yeah, but no, it's excited. It's an opportunity, I think, to build the practice out on the islands, which is good.
Yeah, so that's something in your control,
Yeah, for the most part.
kind of.
No, I guess it is for the most part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess the outcome of how it all happens, and we've obviously got a practice facility. Yes, we are turning up and doing sessions, and the goal is to build that out. And
Mm.
um, but I guess, the outcomes are out of our control. Like, how many days do we start to build out? Do we want to build those out, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
So interesting, and even that example, the outcome or the result of our endeavors and our actions, we can't control, in my opinion.
The mind's very good at sort of expecting or trying to have some sort of control. Why do you think it does that?
I think it's a limitation.
Mm,
Number one, why does it do that? Uh, I think the conditioned mind is designed to sort of do that. Um,
mm,
you know, we, I think I'm trying to extrapolate that a little bit, but the, I think when we kind of make a decision, it's very hard to do that if we haven't experienced that those sort of set of circumstances to base that on. We almost go back to what we've already experienced to draw a conclusion. And I think that hopefully ties into what you were talking about the why. Um, so I think often we've got to, as a challenge to that is to let go of that assumption, which isn't always a great assumption of how we've done things before and how we're going to, let's say, how we're going to perform, and more, creating a mindset of the possibilities of things that we haven't done yet and creating a mindset around that, even though we may not have experienced that before or that hasn't been our outcome as yet. We look at, yeah, like a future that we want to maybe create and trust in, I don't know, a different set of, um, what's the word? Potential experiences, I guess, or potential data points that we haven't got to yet.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like the mind likes to seek the familiar.
Yeah, I think that's what it's comfortable. It's hard, sometimes it's hard for the mind apart from I think fantasy, like going, oh, that'd be really great if we could do that. And it
Mm,
tends to sort of, I don't know, my mind tends to kind of probably err on the this might go wrong, that might go wrong. Rather than being able to sort of see the, hey, this could go fabulously right, you know. And it's often a wrestle with that, to
yeah,
go,
yeah,
oh, I can see the conditioned mind at work.
yeah.
It's kind of limited and it wants to, it's kind of almost painting a negative outcome and just to kind of not stop
Mm,
that, but just see it and then
yeah,
yet let plant new data into the future that hasn't been achieved yet. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
playing in
yeah.
that space a lot more, or trying to play in that space a lot more than the familiarity of the conditioned mind, which, to be frank, is a bit of a, for want of a word, a bit of a bummer, bit of a downer.
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like if the mind goes to all the things that could possibly go wrong, when they actually do go wrong, it's kind of prepared for it, hasn't it? So it's not going to be sort of unexpected and be a huge shock to our nervous system. So
Yeah,
it
it
kind of
likes
makes
to
sense in a
protect
way.
us. It likes to
Yeah,
protect us and keep us safe and
yeah,
um you know, which is its limitation as well, because I think for change to happen, you have to be uncomfortable in uncertain situations
yeah,
to develop character and new skills and stuff like that. But I can't say I always want to be in those places either, because I like comfortability, probably like the next person. But
yeah. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like if we're comfortable, then we're safe.
yeah, but I mean, not this is an example, hypothetical, but if we're sitting watching TV all day and staying under the doona or something like that, nothing's really going to change that much. Good to do occasionally, mind you.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think we have to challenge. I mean, I don't know for you how it is for you. I know that you challenge yourself, so and have particularly in the public speaking area, right, from our conversations, and I guess for the most part, I challenge myself to try to new things.
Yeah, I suppose the question is, how do we determine if we're protecting ourselves or if something is genuinely unsafe?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think it's just on a case by case basis, right? Um, I mean, you could look at it logically, um, and just say, well, I don't know, I don't want to make the call into the new, I don't know, like into different areas to talk about Thrive, for example, if we needed to promote ourselves a little bit because I'm uncomfortable talking to, I don't know, new people, feeling that I might get rejected. To me, that would be a place of no, no, make the call. You know what I mean? And so, but that it's not as always easy as that, like to kind of, I guess, make that assessment, right? Um, I'm trying to think if there was, perhaps a risk, like a client that you haven't met with yet, and it was like an outreach, visiting their house. You probably wouldn't, if you've got that, maybe I should do some checking on the house to make sure that it's, de-risked and all that. And we do have risk management procedures, obviously at Thrive, but I'm just trying to paint an example of that would be a good one to check out before, diving deep dive
Yeah,
and just ringing the doorbell, and
yeah,
going inside.
yeah. I think what sort of helps me come up with a decision when I'm sort of at this crossroad where I start to feel that anxiety or those nerves, I
Yeah.
think is this direction, is that taking me towards my values?
Ah, yes, good one.
Yeah, yeah. So I tend to always pivot back to my values again.
Yeah.
And if it's actually steering me away, then maybe those feelings are kind of telling me something that maybe that's not the direction I should be going.
Yep.
But I find that's quite helpful just because when I'm overloaded with emotions, it's really hard to make a decision. So
Yeah.
when I go back to those core values, I feel like it can really help with clarity. Because, yeah, like I said, I can have so many emotions go on, it's really hard to make a good decision, it feels like. So
Yeah,
I
Nick.
think that sort of helps me.
No, that's awesome. And I know that it's like an ACT approach too, right?
Very much so.
Um, so
I'm very act biased, probably.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's fabulous stuff, and I
Mm,
live my life that way too. But I like the way that you do that because we can also get in a busy day, have lots of decisions to make, and
mm,
trying to go through each. Okay, should I do this? What's the implication of that? I mean, whereas if you can just tune in to, okay, so if I do that now, is that in line with integrity or whatever the value is or purpose or um I don't know exactly what your values are, but I could take a good guess. Um, is it in like it'd be an easier check-in, wouldn't it? And then you can kind of pivot and or just go straight ahead or adjust your approach a little bit to include that person if it's, you know what I mean, to be more inclusive or what have you.
yeah, I think it can be really helpful just in determining, which way to actually go.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. No, I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. And I know if we're coming back to control, what we can and can't control, I feel like when I'm choosing my values necessarily over, all these emotions that are protecting me, I feel like I'm more in control when I'm choosing my values, almost. That's kind of in my control. But what
Yep.
I'm feeling underneath all this, my thoughts and my feelings, I can't really control that. Like that's a very human experience to be having. But at least my values, it's something that I can pivot to, that I have a bit of control with during the storm that I'm going through.
I like that. Yeah, again, it's not always comfortable. You don't always feel great, even though you're choosing a value. And often it can be the most uncomfortable thing to do, right?
Mm.
If you have to have a difficult conversation with someone's coming up for me, and you don't, like it's going to be, a difficult kind of complex thing to navigate and could raise some tension or whatever. So I could see how that would be, yeah, not a feelings-based decision, but a values-based decision.
There's so much uncertainty going on in the world, and I think
Mm.
it's really normal that we're feeling unsettled and we're feeling uncomfortable with what's going on that is out of our control. Um, but it's really there's not really much that we can do about it. I think that freaks the hell out of the body because it is out of our control.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, and you can't control it, obviously. Um, and you can only control your behavior, your thought, your thoughts, and I guess, yeah, your direction. And values are a great way to do that, to still keep a straight line to where you're moving to. Um, I guess sometimes you would say that, okay, well, I can't control what's going on. And, we're obviously talking about, global conflict, it could be anything, right? But, there is a lot of seeming unrest in the world right now, a lot of division, right?
Yeah,
But it is impactful nonetheless. You know what I mean? Even though we can't control it, it still has impact. Sometimes the impact for me would be, exacerbated clearly by tuning into, too much news or the wrong, like there's a lot that I could take control of to navigate without divorcing myself from what's going on at the same time, or
yeah.
what I'm led to believe is going on. Um, so it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because what's outside of ourselves does have impact on ourselves, but particularly in these yeah, turbulent times, I guess.
Well, I have a lot of clients sort of, coming in,
Yeah.
and they'll say, I just can't stop watching the news. I can't stop reading these articles. I know I shouldn't, but I can't stop doing it.
Mm.
And then I'll say to them, well, when you go out and walk in the garden and you hear some rustling in the plants, do you think there's going to be a beautiful white rabbit come out, or are you thinking there's a snake there? It's like, well, I'm going to think it's a snake. It's like, well, yeah, it makes sense that your mind's going to watching the news and thinking that all these bad things are going to happen because it's sort of protecting you. It's another form that the mind's sort of using in order to keep safe.
Okay. Can you explain that a little bit more and talk about that? It's an interesting kind of thread.
Yeah. So I feel like our minds are sort of programmed to look at the negatives.
Sure. Great.
Yeah. So, if we thought every rustling in the bushes was a
Yeah.
beautiful white rabbit, then if it was a snake, then obviously it would be unsafe. So in the
Mm,
concept of the news, for example, what's going on in the war, overseas and all the conflict and everything, well, it makes sense that our mind would be trying to see what's going on as another
mm.
form of protection and to keep safe. So I don't think there's anything abnormal to being kind of addicted to what's going on globally. I think it's all a very natural response in order to keep safe.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I agree with the news, and um, I understand what you're saying there. And I, personally, I like to keep updated with what's going on. I think
Mm.
but what I try to do is I try to reflect. It kind of goes back to the values that you talked about. I try to reflect on what's going on outside as much as I can interpret or understand what's real and what's not, because there's a lot of noise and biasness in you know depending on what news outlet you talk to. Um, but then I reflect it back to those values. Do you see where I'm going with that? And to kind of come back to a truth lens as most of the time, because when I find a truth lens, and probably being a little bit cryptic around this, but to me that's the anchor.
Yep.
To be able to anchor myself in some sort of truth, which to me would be the values approach of ACT, for example, or the way
Mm.
that you would implement it. And if I keep coming back to those values and that anchor, I'm able to navigate the storm more effectively. So what I'm doing, instead of, yep, I'm reading the news, but I'm focusing as much as I can with a view on it in terms of those truthful anchors.
The word anchor.
The same with AI, really. Like,
Yeah.
AI is coming up. I know we might do a session on that too coming up. Um, what's real and what's not real.
Yeah.
we're seeing a proliferation of,
Yeah.
I wouldn't know what's real and I kind of do, but sometimes I go, not sure. Um, I think there'll also be a real need for truthful anchors in that world if, it is to proliferate as some, commentary says that it will, because there'll be a necessity to find things that are truthful and real. And that's where, you know what I mean? Like, so I'm kind of moving off in a bit of a tangent there, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as we do.
Yeah.
Um, but
No
yeah,
worries.
truthful anchors and the values, I think if we're going through the original topic of what we can control and what we can't control, you're quite right. Even if we're, just and look at the lens of what's going on from truth and getting better at that.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think the world will be craving
Hmm.
uh, realness and vulnerability and authenticity. And I think we're already at that place now, um,
Yep.
where we might get a bit exhausted, not knowing what's real and what's not.
Oh, I think
Um,
so too. I mean, and obviously putting it into a human element,
yeah.
the sort of work we do, not blowing our own trumpets, but I do think it will be absolutely necessary for, the work that we do to continue and to grow.
Mm,
Because I think people will naturally need that. I'm not saying sort of mental health solutions, although they will, um, but more just the connection with a human being
yeah.
who's a settling kind of presence. Um, authentic presence as well.
Well, it's very much in line, I feel like, Dale, with AI, because that's another thing that's really out of our control, isn't it? The way that technology is going and sort of losing
It
that
is.
human connection. But
Yeah.
how do we change it over where sort of it doesn't have to be sort of in control of us? Like how would we pivot towards our values in that moment, do you think? When we feel like AI is sort of out of our control, how would we pivot back to values so that we can have a bit more control in that area?
Well, we still have control over our own decisions. Well,
Mm,
I don't think that's going to change. I'm not quite sure how it would change, but you never know. I mean, we're still human beings ultimately, and my
mhm,
belief is, or my understanding is, we're quite uniquely created that a machine can't take that type of role. It might have super intelligence, but it doesn't have super emotional intelligence. That may happen down the track, but it can never be built
good.
as a human being can be
Yeah,
built and the intricacies of
yeah,
a human being. So I guess where I'm going, I'm sounding a little passionate around that, but I am. But I also see that where we can control it is we control what we can control. Our behavior, our truth lens, again, lining
yeah.
up with our values. Is that in line with our tune out if
Mm,
if it's not suitable? Um, yeah, I think just coming back to our humanness and um, having those truthful anchors in our life and sorry, moving outside of purely ourselves, having family, having community, having support structures, doing work in community, doing some service, touching grass, going down the beach, have a swim, pets, dogs, uh, exercise, I mean, I could go on the positive psychology side of things, but,
yeah,
I think those things will be really, really important.
yeah. So finding things that really nourish us,
Yeah.
things in our control.
Yeah. And that's got nothing to do with AI.
No, no. But you can see how it would be scary for people if, a core value of theirs might be something like, let's say connection, for example,
Hmm.
and you've got things out of their control like AI coming.
Like, what do you mean? What would, in terms of connection, how would AI talk to me how you think AI would disrupt that?
Well, potentially if people are using AI to communicate with each other,
Oh, I see.
yeah, instead of actually generally, coming from their true self with what they're feeling.
Well,
Um,
again, I suppose that would be a personal decision whether you did that or not. And if someone was doing that and you didn't want to do it, you don't think that was good for you, well, don't do it.
yeah,
I don't know. But you'll obviously have people that will try and will try and fit into that new world too. Um, but I'd say if it's not, you again coming back to control, you do have control over what you do. You can stand firm in that and say, no, I don't want to do that, or that's not in line with my values, right?
uh,
A little bit different for kids and teenagers, of course. That's, you know, um, they may be a little bit more influenced without trying to
mm,
stereotype that, you know, population area. So,
yeah, yeah,
but
beautiful. So I'm mindful of time. I do
sure.
have a client coming up, but if you did have a client coming in and just saying, look, I'm really overwhelmed, I feel like everything's out of my control at the moment, what would you tell them, do you think? What would you like to let them know?
About what we just talked about, like all the world stuff, or just generally speaking, they're just overwhelmed.
Genuinely, like there's a lot going on, obviously, in the world, but also that affects, people's personal lives as well.
Um, I don't know. I guess I'm speaking probably pretty generally because it'd be based on who the person would be, but
Mm,
um, just coming in with care and compassion to the best
yeah.
of my ability, creating a safe space for them to talk about what they need to talk about. Um, yeah, and letting them know that, I suppose as a human being, they're as best as I can to just honor who they are as a human being.
I love that.
Yep. Because they may not be honoring themselves probably if they've, come in like that. So um, I think that's always important. And I can't see a machine being able to do that. Sorry. Not trying to sound egotistical, but it just can't do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gives some people some, ease and comfort because the human element, again, I'm quite probably a bit biased, but not really. I believe it. What I say is the truth there. So
I
um,
mean, pretty crazy. They've done a lot of science in this field with co-regulation, and when you've got a relaxed nervous system and the heart rate's, quite consistent. If a client comes in and their heart rate, they're in fight and flight, and it's beating quite rapidly,
mm,
that calm nervous system, that they don't know how this happens, but
yeah, the
both
obs
heart rates end up beating in sync with each other.
yeah, they
And
kind of yeah.
that is something that, as far as we know, AI can't do, and that goes beyond sort of science. Like science can't really explain that. So there's something that happens that's pretty special when one calming nervous system has an effect on this other nervous system where that person feels really safe in that
Yeah,
environment.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's something
Yeah,
that's pretty,
evidence backed. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
and we don't know why,
No,
but
yeah. It's a
no, too
beautiful thing
true.
when science and spirituality kind of meet together.
Yeah, it is. It is, and then
Yeah.
it's good to have things that are unknown like
Mm.
that because that
Out of our control.
out of our control, and there's a real goodness to that too, and that's something we should lean into as well, I think.
Yeah. I'll just finish with I forget it was a quote, it might be Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yep.
Um, but he said, relax, everything's out of our control anyway.
Very true. Very
So
true.
a very simple sort of quote to finish with there.
I like that one. I like
Um,
that one.
yeah.
So we've let you go because you've got a client. I've got a client at 4:30. We're doing this, closing this at around 4 p.m. Just obviously you'll do a little bit of additional stuff on the recording around where do people can find us, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'll do that. And
Awesome.
we will have more guest speakers from Thrive.
Yay.
So we've got Jess Edwards, who is back with us after coming back from her leave. So
Yeah, that's
that'll be
awesome.
exciting. We don't know a topic yet, but she's going to choose one. And potentially, we're going to put it out there, possibly Jamie as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Jamie, who you work with there, Macleay Island and Russell Island, Dale.
Yep.
So, yeah, yeah, it'd be pretty cool for the listeners and the viewers to get to know a few more of our Thrive staff. So, really exciting.
Yeah, no, that'll be awesome. Thanks, Matt. Really good to see you
Thanks,
too.
Dale.
Okay.
You too.
See ya.
See ya.
If you're wanting to book an appointment, you can contact Thrive through email or phone. And if you're needing extra support, here are some helpful numbers. And remember, you're never alone.